wanted to talk about Groundhog Day, meaning that feeling that it's the same old, and that you have no options. I mean, you look at life, you look at the possibilities that you have, and they feel so limited. And everything feels so gray, and nothing really gives you, there's no spark anywhere. Everything is lackluster. And it's like almost it's dead, there's a feeling of there's no life there. It's black and white. And if you feel into your body, there's a feeling of being imprisoned. And you have no choice in this life. And whatever is given, you just have to accept it. And you don't want that. You don't like that. And so you try to get out of that situation. And yet, every time you slide back, every time it's almost like you're yanked back to the same situation. And this is horrible. This is a horrible experience to go through. And so in this situation, in this video, what I want to do is I want to explain why this happens and how to deal with it, right? So the first thing is that when you feel that sensation of being stuck, of being limited, of being held, of having no options, nothing, and if you look at the options, they just don't feel right. They feel very limited, and you feel limited in general. Most of the time, what is happening in that moment is that you are not seeing yourself from the adult perspective, right? You're not seeing yourself in the present moment as you are, with all the possibilities that are there. But you have been possessed or taken over, or you've gone back to a part of you that is stuck in the past. And it's usually the child. And you are going through the experience that child had, an experience of limitation, an experience of I have no say in the matter. I'm limited. I feel like a prisoner here, right? That's the experience you may be having in that moment. And I'll explain more about that experience in a minute. But before I go there, I just want to say that if you are having that experience, it's because as you go through life, you will, there's this natural need to include every part of you into your being that will come up. And so every relationship that will come up in your life, whether it's with a human being or with a tree or with your house, whatever, it's like all these experiences, all these relationships, which are never random, they will trigger parts in you that are still in the past or you haven't integrated. They will trigger them up so that you can integrate them, right? Because most of the time we think, let's say that you're 30 years old. So you think all of you is 30, but that's not the case. A part of you is 30, the conscious part of you. But there's a lot of other parts of you that are maybe 5, 6, 10, 20. Because they lived their life, their experience, and at some point there was a stop. And the whole idea is, if you feel like, this Groundhog Day, this thing that comes up over and over again, it's like it's a part of you that wants to push through and come into the present moment, but it can't. It's stuck. So it feels like a broken record. And the fact that it feels so bad, one of the reasons is because you're actually resisting it. Because it doesn't feel good in the moment, obviously, right? It is a part that is stuck. It is a part that feels imprisoned. It can't feel good. And automatically, you're trying to resist it, not to want it, not to be there, and as you resist it, you're going against it, and then the pain becomes bigger and bigger. And so the whole idea is, what I'm trying to say is that when you are in that moment, then it feels like Groundhog Day. It feels like you are imprisoned and you have no options. You're not really in the present moment. You just went back into the past. And this is the time to reclaim that part, to take it in completely, to integrate it, and then this feeling of I have no options, etc., will go away. Because from that perspective, when you go back to that perspective, it's small. It's a child, right? Let's say it's 3 years old. So it's really small, and a 3-year-old has little options. There's so many things that part doesn't have, like the capability to articulate their needs, to talk, to see life in a different way. I mean, there's so many things that feel very limiting. And so when you go into that part, or when that part takes over, you're actually 3 years old, right? You are actually seeing everything as big. You don't know what is happening inside of you. You don't know that you have many options. You really believe that you have to depend completely on other people. And not only that, but at that moment, if that part of you is stuck in that moment, it's because some hurt must have happened. Some wound must have happened. And the wound may be, I feel limited. And one of the wounds, let me give you an example of the one that I'm talking about, that comes up very, very strongly, is that as a child, you will find yourself in situations where there is something happening inside of you. Maybe an emotion is coming up. Maybe a need is coming up. A want, whatever. Something is coming up. And when that comes up, as a child, you need someone to take you by your hand and to take you through that emotion, through that need, so that you can become aware of what it is that is happening inside of you. You can become aware of what you want, what is happening. You can articulate it, and you become aware of yourself. And as that happens, you go from childhood to adulthood, right? You mature. But for many of us, that's not the case, because most adults didn't go through that maturation, right? So what happens is that something will come up, let's say anger. And then your child will be told to calm down. But if you go back to that perspective, to that child, in that moment when that anger is coming up, anger is burning. It's a lot of emotions. It's a lot of movement inside of you, right? It's a lot of movement happening in that little child. It is small, right? It doesn't know what is happening, and somebody is telling them to do completely the opposite of what is happening inside of them. Saying, calm down, right? And it's like, this is happening. The child doesn't know. It's panicking in that moment. The child literally gets scared because in that moment, it doesn't know how to deal with it. It doesn't. And this is happening, and the child is being told to react in completely the opposite way to what it's actually feeling. In that moment, when you go back to that when you go back to that child, to the childhood there, what will happen is that you will experience the panic that that little one felt in that moment. Because that little one is confused now. That little one is like, I don't know what is happening here. They're telling me to do the opposite. I don't know how to do the opposite. I don't know how to calm myself down. I don't know all this. And suddenly, and then there's even more, suddenly what is coming from inside of me seems to be bad. Because I'm told to do the opposite, right? That's what the child is feeling in that moment. So, and it's scary because it's, that child is really small. There is this huge world out there. There are these giants telling it what to do. And it's really confusing. They're saying something, and here is something else is happening. And so it's a terrifying moment for a child. And a child can't handle that. So here, this is what happens, which is a coping mechanism comes up, which is in that moment that child will completely separate itself from that part. From the part that is panicking, from the part where all these maybe emotions, needs, wants, whatever it is, are coming up. It will completely start separating itself from that because it doesn't feel safe, because it doesn't know how to handle that part, right? And because maybe by hearing calm down or, you shouldn't want this, or what is happening with you, or whatever, it's telling itself, no, there's something wrong about me. So that separation happens. But that separation goes on for a while. But at some point, it is a part of you. And it will want to come back. Because that's what healing is about. Healing is about you becoming one with everything inside and everything outside, right? And so in that moment, when that part comes up, it's a terrifying moment because you are experiencing what the little one in you experienced for a long period of time. The confusion, the feeling of being small, the feeling of being lost, of not knowing what to do, the feeling of being alone, that there's no one to help out, the feeling that, there must be something wrong here inside. And maybe based on that, there are certain beliefs that are going to be forged. Like, I can't have what I want. I can't trust myself. I can't trust what comes from here. So imagine you have these two beliefs. So now in your life, you're going to make decisions based on, I can't have what I want. So I will choose breadcrumbs. I will choose what other people choose, even if it's not exactly what I want. And the other one, I can't have what I want. I won't even listen to myself. I won't even know what I want. Because I can't have it. Right? And so, do you see how this then impacts your whole life? And there will be that moment where it's like, but this is enough. This is not working. Because you'll start seeing that, you feel always limited. Right? Like you have no options. Makes sense, right? Like, you can't have what you want, but it still pisses you off. You think that coping mechanism worked, right? That you'll be fine with that. And yet, the frustration is there. And that feeling of being limited, of being imprisoned, of being in the same old, that's the limitation you're going through. It's not only what the child went through, but it's also what you may be experiencing in certain areas of your life, because you've chosen based on, I can't have what I want. So you've chosen on a limiting belief. And so everything will feel limiting. Everything will be limited. You've chosen on the idea that you can't have what you want. So you've chosen something you don't want. And that, again, will feel like this, right? And it will anger you. And most of the time, that anger, you will think it's because you can't have what you want. That anger is not there to tell you that you can't have what you want. That anger is the energy pushing you out of that feeling of limitation and saying, go for what you want. Become aware of it. This is not how you want to live in this powerlessness, right? Anger is this energy that just wants to break free, right? So it's a part of you pushing you out of there. And if it started pushing you out of there, it's not going to stop. So either you align with it and start becoming aware of what you want, what you need, becoming very clear and going for it, or you will be bumping against it all the time. And it's going to be hell, because it's going to be that inner battle is going to ensue inside of you, right? So what to do in those moments when you feel this feeling of limitation? Because the whole idea is for you to integrate that part, to become aware of what happened with that child, make that child become an adult, and then from there you start making decisions, but not based on, I can't have what I want, I'm limited or whatever, but based on freedom, on the freedom to be yourself, right? So what you do is that you integrate the little child, meaning that each time you feel like Groundhog Day, you remember, you write it down somewhere on the wall if you wish, because you'll forget when you get triggered. It is just a past that I need to remember, that I need to integrate. Write it down somewhere, right? So that you can see it. So when it comes up, you don't react to it or you stay with the reaction. You go into your body and you feel how it felt to feel limited. You feel how that child felt. You feel the powerlessness, the fear, the confusion. You feel it in your body. You can write it down if you wish, because it's easier to stay grounded when you write. But you live it out. And what you're doing in that moment is that you're taking back that child, and you're becoming the parent that child didn't have. You sit with that child and you let it express itself. Express its wants, its needs, its confusion, everything that is coming up. And you can write, if you write, or you. The most important thing is for you to really be grounded as much as possible in your body. And let it out until you feel relief. And it's going to be difficult moments, because that you will feel how panicked that child was. And the idea is for you to be with the child unconditionally. Because before that, the moment you felt stuck, the moment you felt imprisoned, the moment you felt like, Groundhog Day, what you did was, I don't want to be here, which was interpreted by your child as, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel you. You didn't know. I mean, I'm not here to judge you or anything. We all have done that. It's ignorance. But it's good to know, to be aware of that, so that you can understand why that child would come up over and over again, and it would get worse and worse because you were going against it. Right? It's not going against you. It's just that you don't know so much of you. We don't. That's why we go from unconsciousness to consciousness. It's like saying going from ignorance to wisdom. It's the same thing. But you're learning through that process. And this trigger will come up over and over again. Why? Because that child suffered for some period of time. And you can't ask it to be okay after an hour or 20 minutes. It's not loving. You give it the time that it needs. And as you are there with it, as you acknowledge what it went through, what will happen is that child at some point will start becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and it will become an adult. And as you become an adult, most of you, it's an ongoing process. But in this case, for this area, as it becomes an adult, you start seeing at the beginning glimpses of possibilities. You'll start seeing that that you can do this, right? That you have more options. You start coming up with these incredible ideas, because the child in you has beautiful ideas. Incredible ideas of how to get to what you want. You start seeing that you don't need to do things their way or the way that everybody does it, but you can find a completely different way. And it's going to be more fun. Now you're playing with that child. And that child's creativity will take you to other levels of empowerment. It's just amazing. Right? But before you get there, and you'll have, even after the first, little integration that you'll have, the first healing moment that you'll have, you'll see that you will have these glimpses, and you'll see that you'll start seeing things from life, from the child's perspective, which is everything is new. It's like it's an awe about everything. Every day is a new day. Every moment is a new moment. Right? So, to wrap it up, because I think it's a long video, when you feel stuck, Groundhog Day, you have no options and all that, that's how it feels. You're not in the moment. It's a part of you that is stuck in the past, and it's time to bring it back. And it's about you staying completely with that part, which means that you're going to go into the fear, the panic, everything that part felt. You're also teaching that part, by being with that part, that it can trust you, that you are the parent it didn't have, or at least from this perspective. Because parents nowadays, they're doing their best. It's just that even they didn't get certain things. Even they didn't get this mirroring that a child needs. So anyways, so you'll be given that. You'll start learning unconditionality. And then you'll start seeing so many more options. You'll start seeing things in colors. And it's just amazing. So I hope this was clear. If you want to work with me directly, there's a link down below. If you have any questions, any comments, let me know down below. Ciao, ciao.